My name's Adam Parker. I'm the owner of Fast Fit Outs. We specialise in small to medium-sized fit outs, alterations and refurbishments, mainly hospitality and office. I've been doing this for 25 years. Started out in family business in office furniture, going back into the 1980s. Then went into a partnership with Office Shop Renovations, and that was in the 90s. Towards the mid-2000s, started Fast Fit Outs. Don't travel too far from Brisbane, and we just like to keep it local.
I'm Melissa Marsden. I'm the founder and director of Community. We are a commercial interior design and workplace strategy firm. We work with organisations to help them create great places to work, and that's in the workplace sector, and we also work with airlines and the aviation industry.
When they first did the shutdown, we had about 8 contracts filed on the day, and they were all hospitality, understandably, because they couldn't trade anymore. Interestingly though, now inquiries are quite strong. I suppose the leads that are coming through are qualified leads. We've done a lot of offices, as in beforehand it was open plan, but it's now starting to change to individual offices. We did do something just recently where we put a whole lot of divider perspex screens between a whole lot of workstations. There was about 60 of them that went in, and that was an attempt to try and slow down COVID transmissions within the office. A while ago, people would try and squeeze people into workspaces, and now they're trying to spread people apart, so that's quite an interesting observation. In the construction side, on site, it's a bit tricky because normally, you try and jam as many people in there to try and get the job over the line, so the construction times are taking a little bit longer, and you don't fit so many trades in at one time, but other than that, it's seems to be humming along okay.
We've seen a few different changes, so everything from organisations sitting back and rethinking how they're going to be returning to the workplace, but also then organisations thinking about how they're going to be designing their workplaces moving forward. The ones that have, obviously we all had to move home and then we've had to come back, it's been that process of reintroduction and really getting a better understanding about what's going to be safe for our individuals, but also then what's going to be good for our businesses going forward. A lot of us have had challenges around the mix of working at home and working in the office and that lack of social interaction, which is really important in terms of great collaboration, great communication and effective productivity in our organisations. So that's been some really big challenges that we're having to face, and they're going to be challenges that we're going to be needing to face ongoing into the future as well. Having a mix of both office-based working and home-based working and shifting through that. For clients that are looking at what they're going to be doing into the future, it's a bit of a holding pattern at the moment because there's a lot of uncertainty still around how that looks. My predictions sit around the fact that a lot of our organisations are going to need to completely rethink how we use our workplace environments, with the fact that a lot of that focused and concentrative work that we do as knowledge workers can occur at home in a more controlled environment where we can do really focused and deep concentrated thinking. And it's actually our social needs that are needing to be filled when we go into the workplace. So our collaboration, our connection, our ability to interact and really connect with other people, that's what our workplaces will need to support us in.
People are feeling more productive at home.
They have been, although we're starting to see a bit of a shift in the stats now because it's kind of like that honeymoon period has passed. And a lot of organisations are really quick to go, oh, well, everyone can work at home now, let's get rid of our office space, we don't need it. But I think they're starting to see that shift is starting to wear thin. People are feeling isolated, they are wanting that socialisation. And while they might be really productive at home to do those stints of work, we still need that human connection.
To come in.
As humans, we're hardwired for connection. We want to engage with other people, and that actually spans whether you're an introvert or an extrovert. So having that ability to still come to the office to connect, but on your terms, so you can then determine, well, I only want to come into the office one day a week because I, kind of like my own space, or I love coming to the office, I'm going to be there 5 days a week.
So do you think that will be more of the 2 days at home, 3 days in the office, or?
I think there's going to be a lot more of that flexibility coming in, and some of our clients have already started looking at that and going, okay, well, how do we then manage that from a cultural perspective? Technology is going to be a big factor in enabling us to schedule things for us, and that's where AI and everything else that's going to start to influence our workplaces comes in.
It's different times.
Yeah.
The current issue now is how to deal with COVID and its distancing. I was looking at opportunities, taking extra space. Surprisingly though, we've been asked to recycle more or repurpose.
What I've seen is, particularly in the legal industry, a lot of those guys are still working from home. They're reluctant to come back into the workplace environment. But as a workforce that can work quite independently and individually, that's worked out quite well for them because they've got that ability to do so. Other organisations that are more collaborative and need that face-to-face social interaction so that they can communicate and brainstorm and co-create together, I'm seeing those guys need to come back to the office much more quickly or in a different sort of format. The challenge that most of my clients are still sort of reporting to me on is the fact of public transport. So they're still trying to determine how they can get their employees safely to the office and then home again. Parking rates have shifted a little bit in the city at the moment, but you're actually seeing a lot of people are driving in because they're reluctant to catch public transport. And so it's not so much the requirements of how they can manage their safety while they're in the workplace environment, it's the actual getting them in and getting them home again that they're finding the most challenging.
The notion of trying to set down a deadline is going to stretch out because there's so many uncertainties. It's just impossible to dictate, yes, this will happen at that time. All it takes is one little hiccup and things go all pear-shaped. And certainly now when we do contracts, we're not necessarily signing up to a deadline. It's just too dangerous. I think that's the biggest issue right now moving forward. Certainly in local sites there's no masks and all that wearing. I think that's going to change from a construction point of view. And certainly sanitising will become a bigger and bigger thing. After a fit out, the whole place gets cleaned properly other than just a wipe down.
We had a lot of clients who were contacting us through those earlier stages of moving back into the workforce and trying to understand what their regulation requirements were and how they could safely do that and what they might need to do from a workplace perspective to adapt their environments to make it a safe environment for their employees to return to. And so we put together this resource, and what we've identified through doing that is that there's a lot of behavioural change that actually needs to occur within our workplace environments and less so from a physical perspective. So we've mapped out an employee's journey, everything from leaving home in the morning all the way through to arriving home at night, and what some of the behavioural changes that they could be experiencing throughout the day. And that goes from having stand-up meetings rather than sit down because they're going to be quicker and more productive, staging people through the kitchen at lunchtime so that not everyone's in there having their lunch at the same time, provision of sanitisation stations, and just sort of helping manage people's behaviours and expectations throughout the course of the day. There's a process in terms of returning people to the workplace, and we've outlined it in a 3-stage formula of engage, co-create and then adapt. So the engagement phase is purely a consultation, engage with your team, find out what it is that they want to do, how do they want to work, what are their concerns about returning to the workplace from a health and wellbeing perspective, and then sort of determining collectively, and this is in the co-create stage, how can we then create an environment that we're all going to feel very safe and comfortable to coming to work in? What does that look like from how many days am I in the office and how many days am I at home? And then the adapt phase is about implementing that, but then also monitoring it and continuing to adapt it and to change it and evolve it.
Currently now we're working on some medical offices. We have just recently done various alterations where we've actually put in more offices. They've cleared away some of the open benches and they put in offices. Whether that's a direct result of COVID or not, I don't know. On the retail side of things, we're just seeing people take advantages of the vacant shops that are available. Not necessarily undertaking major fit-outs, because this is the smaller end of the market, but just altering and refurbishing what's there and taking advantage of that. Because it's smaller work and we've got a smaller team. Our team is all multi-skilled and we've got joinery in-house. We have carpenters in-house, sheeters in-house, painters in-house. We're more geared for the smaller work. We can get in, get the job done, get it out. We operate on what we call a conceptual basis. So we will go in and I'll conceptualise a price, and if the client wants to move on from that, then we'll formalise it. The formal price will come in under the conceptual price. So we get to the business end of getting construction very quickly. The traditional model would be go get some drawings done, get that priced, and then go into construction, where we do it the other way around. The true value for using fast fit outs is where I'm standing beside the person when they're negotiating with the landlord. If I'm there, I suppose, whispering in their ear, that seems to be very, I suppose, successful for the client. And I've seen many occasions where they say big money. If I can get in before, whilst they're negotiating, then they do quite well.
When we're creating our commercial workplace environments, what we try and do is help the client understand how that workplace environment is actually establishing a community within their organisation. So when we think about in terms of what a community is, it's a group of people that share the same values and belief systems. And when we're going into our organisations, that's exactly how we're making our decisions around who we want to work for and why we want to work for them. So there's usually a purpose that sits behind that organisation, and that's then communicated through their culture and through their values, and it's that attracts us into that organisation and why we want to work for them. How do we want people to behave in order to be aligning with our values? And when we're looking at that, that's actually what's then driving our sense of community, because we feel like we belong there, we feel like we get along, and we're building social relationships with our colleagues, and that only further enhances our sense of belonging, and then it impacts us on our well-being.
We would just be consolidating what we do, just improving our processes. At the moment there's no need for growth. We're not wanting to grow bigger than what we are. Concentrate more on the alterations and refurbishment side of things. Before COVID it was rather hectic, and it's quite a pleasant sort of, things aren't so rushed as what they used to be. So I'm enjoying that, and I've got my son that's in the business and he's coming through, so I'm enjoying teaching him all the bits and pieces. There's opportunities out there, and I think all people in my, all builders fit out companies see the opportunities, but it's just not as rushed as what it used to be. There's certainly some areas that are suffering, but as a whole I think the industry is quite nicely bubbling along.
I'm finding at the moment there's definitely a shift. There was a quiet period for a while, and I think that was while everyone was just trying to determine what was going on and what do we do now. But I'm starting to see that return to normal. Inquiry levels are picking up, clients are getting a bit more confident in moving forward. If people's leases are expiring, they're expiring, so they need to make decisions. And they're making the best decision that they can with the information that they have right now.
It's a new level of normal. It's not going back to what it was, and what that new normal will be.
And anyone's guess at the moment.
Scary stuff.
We've found COVID to be a really great opportunity for us to reevaluate how we service our clients and what it is that we can do to support them through this. And what we've identified is that through the strategic piece of our business, we aren't just there to help create physical environments, we're actually there to help them restructure the dynamics that exist within their teams. Some exciting times for us in terms of working in a much more strategic capacity with our clients to help them reevaluate and reset their workplaces going forward.
I know the real estate property managers they're keen to get people in, so there's some good deals going on. And there's a lot of opportunities for vacant space, as in, this is the hospitality, there's a lot of vacant shops available.
I think they need to be starting off with a really strong strategy, so really understanding what their business strategy is, and then unpacking their business and really understanding how their people are working, what it is that they need to do, and breaking it down to that really cellular level of looking at the tasks and responsibilities of each individual, and then helping them recreate their workplace environment to suit that on the other side.
One client told me I'm their lucky charm.
Yeah.